my goodness, you guys, am I ever caught up? Did I catch up? I caught up. Yay. Hallelujah. All right. So without further ado, 50 people in the house. I'm going to bring up Badge and J-Rock. Hello, my fellow prairie gentlemen.
Hello. Hopefully I'm not too loud on the mic.
No, you guys are good. A little bit chilly out there.
It's chilly.
Beautiful.
It's chilly.
It's a beautiful minus 45 Celsius out this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Minus 45. That means our school buses won't even run, even in town today.
No, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, at minus 44 with the wind chill, school buses stop running here. That's our standard. So it's that cold. But, Badge, what were some of the things you need to let me and everybody here know about dealing with these temperatures?
Well, the thing about, like, you already know how to put the heaters in, because what I want people to know is that J-Rock has got a killer video out on the Chinese heaters and a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I didn't know that you could put temperature on it and get rid of the kilohertz. And that's a pretty cool thing, because people don't understand the kilohertz, right? So, and then you got the one that you installed the heater. So I'm not poking fun at you or not, but for somebody that never done it before and you put it in, it wasn't a big deal. And that's what I try to tell these people, but they don't seem to get it. So if they watch your video and watch J-Rock's video, and I got 2 up myself, then you can do this and just put it in. The big thing is about the heater, and that's where I got to thank our friend Aaron Jameson, because he told us about the Pro Breeze, and it totally takes the moisture out. Like we are running down below 20% now in moisture, which is pretty good when it's 95 outside, 95%. So the thing about the cold, temperatures, the big thing is that I don't know if anybody watches it, but you'll know like I watch a lot of channels, everybody knows that, but Trenton Alley, they're always freezing their water. Well, that's just because you have to keep everything heated and insulated. Just like Aaron put a video up on the pump jack, how to insulate it. It works just perfect. You do it the way Aaron says, it'll work just perfect. Like we've gone down to minus 25 Celsius, and we haven't even plugged in the heat trace for the hose going from the tank to the trailer yet. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, J-Rock and I have the exact same heater, the exact same source. We just kind of ordered it one after the other. He sent me the link to what he bought. I bought the same one. And he explains the hertz and temperature a bit better than I did. I mean, the hertz rate, J-Rock, is how many pumps of diesel per minute. So if you use less of that, it's going to burn less. So if you pay more attention to hertz first, it's more efficient.
Well, the hypothetical of it is that when you get the diesel heater, it's in HZ, it's in hertz, it's the speed of your pump that pumps as much fuel into your diesel heater. The higher the hertz, the faster the pump. You'll hear that as you jack it up. But the suggested efficiency is 2 hertz. But I sat in my van and just ran it. It was like only probably about minus 10 outside. And it ended up being about plus 10 inside the van. So depending on some people's preferences, it might be good if people like it plus 10 in the van, but really depending on the temperature outside, your insulation in your van, and what you like inside your van.
Well, you hadn't insulated yours yet at that point in time when you did your test. And I had started my insulation, and I did 24 hours at 4 hertz and 24 hours at 2 hertz, and a dramatic difference in fuel efficiency. And it was minus 21 outside, and I was 15 inside. So
definitely.
For us to compare our numbers, it doesn't really show
working pretty good.
anything. It's when we compare it to what our own temperatures and our own vehicles are, right? So
yeah.
Well, it's just one of those things. Like I tried the temperature for a few nights. I stayed in the backyard of my house. It's just, want to go sleep in my van. So you spend all this time and money, you just want to go enjoy it somehow, some way. So my wife kind of looks at me weirdly, and I was like, yeah, good night, and go from there. But I ran it at 16 Celsius. I found that it was super perfect for me throughout the whole entire night.
Yeah.
And I definitely did notice that, by the morning, I probably did over, what is that, a 15-liter tank? So probably more than half. Yeah. Put a little bit more than half. 10-liter tank, isn't it? I honestly can't remember.
It's a 10-liter tank. Sorry, guys. Right. Every time this comes up, I'm going to have to interrupt you. We got a super chat from Landcloud Adventure saying, Badge is awesome. Do epic shit. So I'll play a little epic shit for Nate.
We do a lot of that.
There we go.
Awesome.
Compliments a Badge from Nate. Cool.
There you go.
You like that? That's what I told you before we were doing this. But
well, just playing around, trying to learn how to edit. Apparently, I don't have to be good at it.
If not, somebody else has already done it for you, and you can usually just borrow and stuff like that. There's enough free stuff out there that you can definitely use.
Oh no, I made that off the sticker off the back of my ambulance.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Badge, you had me bring up some pictures. Do you want to discuss them yet, or which one do you want me to?
Just bring them up, and I'll talk about them. It don't
All right,
matter.
and let me know when you want me to go to the next one. So we have this one first. What is this, Badge?
Okay, this one. This one here, a lot of people won't understand it, but believe me, this is what they call a Propex. It's a Chinese heater made in Canada that runs on propane, and it's got the same numbers as a diesel heater. You Google it. I won't do the work for you. But you go
I've never heard of one of those before. So this connects
Google that heater, and it uses the fan low, and if the main heater in my trailer goes out, that's what's going in it. A Propex is what's going in it, and they're made in Canada, so.
And they run just over $400. You were saying, right?
Yeah. But you Google the Propex, Propex.
Propex. All right. Mayhem says China had it made in Canada. Nobody.
Canada, made in Canada. Yeah.
So then
it might be made in China, but okay. Now this one here is a Chinese heater kit. Now all this stuff is I gotta remember if that's the Webasto one.
So the Webasto and the diesel heater, all the parts look very similar. It's just mostly the quality apparently is different. What else would be a difference, you guys, between the Webasto and the diesel?
Price, huge difference in price itself.
Now, if you look, what does it say on the top? Webasto, right?
Yeah.
But both kits are. I just showed that for the reason that you get the Chinese one. It looks almost the same, except it comes with a tank, right? This one don't come with a tank, but they all have the same parts. It's just quality you're dealing with here. That's all you're dealing with. The thing about it is, if you put a Chinese,
I thought it was the Chinese one because it looks like the same parts.
Yeah, I know they do. They all got the same parts basically, and that's the thing. It's just the quality of the parts. Like this one doesn't have a tank in it, right? That's all. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that's a Webasto. I can't even look at it. But yeah, and that's when I'm people are going on Chinese or Webasto or Espar. It's like buying a Cadillac. You don't go buy a Cadillac and it's the best, and then you go and buy a Kia or something like that and expect it to be a Cadillac. That's the only thing. That's all I'm trying to explain to people is don't buy a Kia and expect it to be a Cadillac. It's not the same thing. But the Chinese one will work out just as good and make just as much heat as the Webasto. But or the Espar, either or. And the only thing is with the S-Bar and the Webasto, you don't really have to take them apart every year and clean them out. That's with the Chinese one you do. But now they've come in with this, J-Rock knows about it. And if you watch this video, I explain it to you, is you put in a high burn and it'll go into, I don't want to explain it here. You go into high burn, it'll clean it out and keep it clean. So where with S-Bar and Webasto, you don't need to do that. That's all. It's only a quality thing. They work like if I put you in a truck with a S-Bar Chinese heater, the normal person would not be able to tell the difference. Honestly, they make heat. That's all they do, and they burn about the same amount of fuel.
Well, Webasto is actually well known for doing diesel heaters in vehicles, especially over in the UK. So they heat up your engine block before you start it up, and It also produces less smoke. And that's kind of how the concept of it come across. So it's just for commercial based use, Webasto has already a set name across the world.
See, I don't know why people pull me up on this stuff, because I tell you all this crazy stuff. Like if you buy a Mercedes Sprinter van and you get it with the rear heater and a winter package, it already has a Webasto mounted under the right fender, and it heats the engine up, because the diesel engine doesn't heat up. Like anybody with a diesel engine, like even Paula knows that, they don't heat up at an idle. Yeah, they don't heat up at an idle. So the problem with the Mercedes diesel is heating it up, so they put a S-Bar under there, or a Webasto under there, and it heats the engine up to 150 degrees. And when you're driving down the road in the wintertime, it's 150 degrees. And anybody that's got a Sprinter van without one, it's hard to heat it. And when you got a big tin can like that, you need all the heat you can to heat it up, right? So, and they come from the factory with it. Like most of your lemos and your buses, like the bus conversion ones, are already they're mounted in there.
We have a question for Badge. It says, do all Onan generators have a separate battery system? I got underneath my Class C and noticed it has its own battery. Does the alternator charge that battery?
No. If the Onan's got its own battery, when the Onan's running, the Onan will charge that battery, unless it's wired to the truck, which I doubt. But the Onan will keep it charged for you, because it'll charge it, I think it's 12.5 amps or something. But if you have your own battery on your Onan, it's a good thing to do, by the way, is that then it's a captive battery and you don't have to worry about killing it or any of that stuff, right? But no, the Onan will charge that battery.
Awesome. So Badge, we have another picture here. Now this one is the is this the Wave 3?
These are waves.
Propane?
Yeah, these are you got 3 wave heaters. You got a 3, 6, and an 8. Now everybody knows, or most people know, what I live in is a 36-foot V-Light trailer. And all we have on for heat this winter is that there Wave 8. That heats that whole trailer. And then we have just a little 800-watt heater in the bedroom for extra, right? But that there heater will keep it up, and that heater will heat the inside of the trailer so good it'll turn off the main heater. The main heater's still only come on maybe 3 or 4 times this year already, and we're minus 15 out here. So,
yeah,
that's still not bad.
We can't buy these in Canada. Right?
You can't buy them in Canada because Camco, who makes them, pretty much said, you know what they said to Canada, because Canada wanted the CA sticker on it, right? They didn't want to put one on it because when you get right down, you got to look at it from Camco's point of view. I know people don't do that, or Walmart's point of view. You got to think that, okay, in Canada, we're going to sell maybe. Now, the same amount of people live in Canada as that live in LA County, okay? The same amount from coast to coast to coast is the same people that live in LA County. So now what are we going to do? We're going to redo all our heaters for Canada when we're only going to sell maybe 30 or 40 or 50 there. Why would we do that? And that's why they just don't want us redo it to Canada specs, because you can't even buy them in the States. They're sold out all the time. So, I just, like, everybody
I
goes
thought
on about it, but
I thought I said I wanted another person's van built that I'm not going to mention, but
everybody's got them.
Yeah, you can get them. You can get them.
Everybody's got them. You just buy them from the States. I'll tell you a story about it. Like, Crohn's got one, and I got 3 of them, and you can get them from the States. You just now, on my Wave 8, I was driving down the road, it vibrated and broke the mount, and the heater fell down, right? I fixed it all, of course. And I phoned a guy, and I says, okay, I got my heater here. It's under warranty. What are we going to do? I'll just send it back. But we got a problem. I said, what's the problem? You're in Canada, right? And I said, yeah. He says, well, I can't send it back to you. I says, why? He says, well, they're not certified for Canada. You can use it, and it's safe, but you just can't. It's a government thing. You can't. And so I could send it back to them. They'd fix it, but then they wouldn't send it back to me. I'd have to wait till I go down south to get it, right? And go down south. You go down south, take them out, send them into Camco. They'll fix them 100. See, Camco, like, we got a company up in Canada. It's called North Star Heaters out of Calgary, and they make cargo heaters for trailers. The same thing, but they're usually about 140,000, 75,000 BTU. Huge ones. The mats are like 24 by 36, right? And it's the same mat. Like, the mats are a chemical reaction, and all it does. And there's no open flame on it. So North Star has these heaters. They make them in Canada. Now, I can go to Calgary and get a mat for it and put it in. It'll work just fine. It'll work because Camco doesn't make the mats for them. They're made in China, the mats, right? So you just bring the mat back. We used to do them I replaced mats all my life. So it wasn't a big deal. You just, you have to put gloves on because you can't get no oil on them. But they're just not certified for the Canada. And Camco is in a position where they just don't want to redo them all to put in certain valves and stuff like that to redo it. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. And I can see their point. It's not worth it.
So on your Wave 8,
but they were a good heater.
You don't have a thermostat on the Wave 8?
No. It's just by it's on low, medium, or high. And that's one of the reasons they want a thermostat on them, right? But I don't know. The heater works phenomenal. Like, well, you've seen it, Paula. It works phenomenal. This thing is, I think it's one of the, and Aaron Jameson said the same thing. It's one of the best heaters on the planet. And the good part about it is that it has tip over. If you tip it over, like, the Wave 8 has cut our propane in half from the 40,000 BTU RV heater. It's cut it in half.
Well, and this is the propane heater that I have, because that's all we can get in Canada.
Okay, now that's a ceramic heater. That's not like that's a little buddy heater. It's a ceramic heater. What's that?
So this one, it has a flame with the pilot?
This is the flame. Yeah, it's got it's sort of got an open flame, sort of. Not really, but it's sort of. Because it's got a pilot light and all that stuff. See, the pilot light on the Wave goes out, which a lot of people think they're broken because the pilot light won't stay on. But the pilot light doesn't stay on a Wave. All it does is light the mat. Where on the little buddy, it'll stay on, because the little buddy, the bigger one, you can get a fan and everything, and these are ceramic heaters. Now, these have been around since they invented propane, I'm sure, because they've been around, like all the old, like back in the 20s and 30s when they had propane heating. That's what they're using, ceramic heaters. And a lot of the shops, like even the ones down around Saskatchewan and Alberta and BC, all of them had them heaters in them. In Ontario, all over, because they were they're easy. All you need is a thermocoupler and a propane line, They use them on natural gas. They use them on everything, and they're like they're going to make moisture, but not like if you want to. The what I use for a gauge of moisture is kick your hot water tank in and hold your hand outside the heater, and just you'll feel the water coming out of that from the propane fire when it comes up the exhaust. You'll feel that moisture come out where you
Your hands
don't
get
feel it with
wet?
a wave, and I don't really feel it with a. Yeah, your hands will get wet, and they got some propane. I never give you a picture one. They got some propane heaters because I don't like an open flame. They got propane heaters that have an open flame, and Brad bought one for the shop, and then you just put your hand over it and you can feel the moisture because it's an open flame like your stove, even their propane stove. You start it up and you can feel the moisture coming off it. And propane makes moisture, but yet the RV heater does not make moisture because it takes air from the outside, and burns it and puts it back outside. It doesn't take the air from the inside to burn it. So you don't get that moisture in the inside. And they say the wave does, but it's very minimal. And same as the little buddy. So
Adventures in Xanadu has a question for you, Badge. How do you maintain your roof now with all the snow, freeze, and thaw? I mean, we saw what it did to my solar panels. The sun couldn't get through the thick ice. So how are you?
Okay. So what I've done is the trick to the trailer, which I haven't made the video up yet because I got to do one at the end of the season, explain all that. But what you do is I put old car tires between the trailer roof and the roof, the tarp on the roof. They're all insulated tarps. They're 3 mil. They're R7 is what they are. And I put old car tires on the roof so that, because you're going to get radiant heat coming out of the trailer and it's going to go into the tarps, right? So if you put that gap there, then the radiant heat will come up and it'll keep it air gap, a warm air gap all underneath the tarp, and the tarps won't be touching the trailer. And you don't have to do nothing to the roof, because then what we did after that, we put the insulated tarps down, then we got a 20 by 40 tarp and laid it right over. That's the white one you see is right over, so the snow lands on that and then it falls off. We go up there and sweep. Well, we haven't got no snow this year, so you just
Well, it's the
sweep
same
it
idea
off.
when we're insulating our units. We want to have a bit of that gap. So
yeah, you need an air gap. Wherever you have insulation, you have to have an air gap, right? And that's like, I can't remember who it was. Somebody, well, even Aaron mentioned it once, that people put reflective in and they put it right tight. It doesn't work. It has to have an air gap. So that's for the roof, and the sides is the same way. Like all we heat it with is a wave 8, and we have a wave 3 underneath the bedroom to keep the water tank. And the water tank, believe it or not, now it's minus 16 here for last week, and the water tank now minus 16 is minus 2. You're American, right? I think.
Okay.
And anyway, it's
American.
55 degrees in the watershed right now, with a wave 3 in there on low. So.
And are you using that wood heat at all? Does that wood heat dry any of the air out, or just put dry air?
Don't even talk to me about that wood heat. That wood stove is to die for. The good thing about a wood stove is when you burn it, you get nothing but dry heat, the same as your air heater. Like I told you, I'm bringing the thing back because this thing works way too good. It does. It works way too good. And that little heater I call it the foyer. Everybody gets a kick out of it. The foyer, or the shed right on the front of the trailer. It'll keep that up above zero, like 40, 50 degrees in there. No problem at all. And it heats up the top of the trailer, and that goes down around by the propane tanks too and keeps it all warm. It works really good. And we bought that one load of wood there. You seen that one load of wood we had, and I've burnt just about all that now, and that costs $110. So I got another load coming here this week sometime, and we cut it into 9-inch pieces, 9 inches maximum, and you just stoke that baby, and it's pretty good. And then you take, them fire logs you buy that you can see at the store. You can buy these fire logs. Well, I put a fire log in there. A fire log will burn for 4 hours in that stove.
That's good for overnight. Yeah. How does one go about buying a new mat for the wave heaters?
That's the problem. That's the problem with the wave heater. Camco does not want you to replace the mat. They want you to send it back to the factory, and they'll replace it for you. So that's Camco. That's what they want to do. See, but mind you, got to remember the mats are good for, they say anywhere from 9 to 11 years. They just don't wear out, right? And the way you'll find out if the mat is worn out, you'll see little flames shooting out of the mat when it's running, little fires, like, the little flames off the sun. That's what it looks like, a little flame coming off there. That's when you know your mat's in. But if it's not doing that, that's the only thing it'll do. Or if you smell propane a lot. But usually they're very durable, really.
Well, Matt says his mat is dirty. You have if the mat's dirty, do you have a secret tip for that? No, they just sort of, I don't know, they don't sort of they don't like dirt at all, right? They don't like dust. Like, that's why they want, when you start it, they want you to put it on high. That burns off all the dust. They don't like dust on it at all. Dust on it. Oh, just a minute.
They even offer a bag that goes over top of the Canco, the wave.
Yeah, you can buy So they don't like dust at all. Dust is a bad thing. But the thing is, you can't touch it with your fingers, because the oil on your fingers will wreck the heater. Because there's I don't remember I was gonna say magnesium or plutonium in it. It's got, or tungsten. It's got something in the mat that is a chemical reaction with the propane. That's what it is. That way it burns, right? It's not an open flame, but it does get hot. So
I thought it does give off some bit of moisture off the wave heaters, or am I wrong?
Well, they say you do, but I tell you honest, I've never seen it. Like, I don't notice it, Jay. I really don't.
Okay.
How many tires do you have on your roof badge? Over that 36 feet. Four.
But then I got the vent covers and the air conditioner, so that keeps it up too, right? Most of the tires are on the slides. Slides to keep it up. Cardboard, like we had a problem with the one slide freezing up, so I just got a big piece of cardboard and laid it over that, and corrugated cardboard, it works fine. Like, if you don't have a insulated tarp, just lay on layers of cardboard and put a tarp over it to keep the water out of it. It works just fine.
Even like 1 or 2 inch polyethanol styrofoam. Is that the correct name? I think it's the correct name for it.
Yeah, we go
around, like, if Trent and Ellie grab the bottom of their trailer as well too.
I did. So. Yeah, that was my idea they used. No, I'm just kidding.
But like slide outs, they're not very well sealed at all. Because my parents have a 37-foot trailer, and just pulling it down the grid road, and they cracked it open when they got home, and there was dust everywhere. My mom just like, where is it coming from?
Slides are bad.
Just terrible.
If we do get it, me and Elle talked about it. We're not going to get a trailer, but if we do, it won't have slides. It won't have slides at all, and it'll be made of 2x4s, not aluminum. But because then you can see, that's the thing. Like, I get a lot of grief over the video I did on aluminum trailers. Like, and that's the problem now. That's the biggest problem now, because 90% of the trailers are made with aluminum frames. Well, when you're in this stuff that we're in, and that cold radiates right through that aluminum. See, it doesn't do it with wood. It does it with aluminum. And it'll radiate right through there. It's I can't remember the word they call it now. J-Rock.
Well, it has no R value. It pulls right through. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
weather leaching. It'll
Well,
leach the temperature right through it. Like you look in the wall in the morning where the beams are, and you'll have a frost line on it. Where a 2x4 wall, you won't have that. Like I
Mm-hmm.
never, when I had my old '87 trailer, I never had that at all, and I lived in it in the wintertime and never had a problem with it. But this one here is really, really bad. This one's a full time job. Well, we got it almost figured out now, but and that's the thing. Like we're in a whole different ball game here because everybody thinks I've done this for 100 years, but we haven't. We've only done this. This is our first year that. Well, this is our third year in the winter with it, but we were set up for the winter for down south, so you don't worry about that stuff. Like if you're down below and don't get snow or ice, then you don't have to worry about the aluminum trailer thing. It's just if you're going to live in them in the wintertime. And below 15 degrees, that's 15 degrees Fahrenheit, that's a chore. It's a real chore.
Mm-hmm. We only have 20 minutes left. And we did have a question about heating a bus. Same things.
Wave 3, the diesel heater is a great idea. The only thing that I regret about the diesel heater is it's just not as efficient as I thought it would be. I honestly thought it would be a little bit better.
Me too.
And I'm looking at a bigger tank. I've been digging around, searching. I noticed that LifePod with I can't remember her name. She went from a 10 to a 20-liter tank in her van. I know Forrest is doing the same thing because he got himself a Chevy Express van. That was a sweet find.
Yeah, but he's gonna. I think I got him convinced to plumb it into the main fuel line. I think. See, I did that with sevens, and it goes like you never notice it then, right? Because it only burns maybe even on max and really cold. It's only going to burn maybe 3 to 4 gallons a night maximum. So.
Well, you can on max because ours is set at 5.4 hertz on the fastest speed, but you can make some adjustments go quicker. You could literally kill 10 liters of diesel
in 24.
Less than even overnight in 8 hours.
That's what and I never tried it, but that's what Paula said too. And I'm thinking, no, I can't.
That was my first
because you can run a Webasto for a lot longer than that, like way longer than that.
Well, I'm talking maxing it out. If we put it down to only 2 kilohertz, then it'll take 3 to 4 liters for a 24-hour period.
The slower the kilohertz, the better the efficiency. But as soon as you start jacking that thing up, you are gonna burn through more fuel. It's even when you switch it over to temperature setting, because like I said, I have it set at 16. And the thing about the temperature setting, it revs itself up to max, and when it gets at the max temperature, it drops itself down, and it literally turns its hertz down to the lowest setting you can, and you can hear it go click, click, click. Then as soon as it drops about 3 or 4 degrees below 16, kicks back up again. It's just like in front of the house.
Like Paula, when she put hers in, she put the wrong hole in the wall. I said, don't worry about that. Leave that hole there. Now, this is what you do. You take the intake for the combustion and put it into the cab. And it'll take that, put the intake right close to the heater. Set it on, it's put away, right? And it'll suck that air.
You have to punch the hole again.
It'll suck the warm air, right? And then because when you're burning cold air, you burn a lot of diesel. So what you want to do is warm that air up a little bit, like even if it's not where the heater is, even in another compartment, or even if you put the intake pipe right by the muffler when you're going down the road or something, anything, just to heat the air up a bit. It makes a huge difference. Well, and I know, J-Rock, you're going to try it, and you'll see the difference.
But
it's amazing.
I watched Slim Potato Head, and he's another guy that he's pretty big on, and he put his diesel heater outside to suck the air, and he even took the intake hose and put it against the outtake hose inside. Like like I've seen before, unless you live down south or something like that, they actually physically do draw hair from outside to inside the house to heat the house, depending where you're at. But in Canada, we don't do that. We don't draw your cold air outside. The only time we do that is to cycle the air in our houses, because a lot of our brand new houses are so airtight that you need to have an air exchange unit with a heat
and
exchanger.
they have an air exchanger that brings the air in to the heater, and it warms up from the air inside, and then
inside
it burns
the house. You use less fuel because of that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, ton.
Oh, I'm going to be definitely making that change.
I'm watching Slim Potato Head, because that's taking a heater and totally hooking up the wrong way. But I want to see if he gets this figured out. He's that close. He's really close.
He is that close. And like I said, Paul, like when I looked at the side box of your vent, you have those air vents at the top at either end. And so you take those off and you let that thing pull that air, because it can cycle a lot of CFM through there as well too. And I also mentioned about CFM as well in your loss, and you have a few bends, but because of the size of the 3-inch tube, you're only at 3% loss by the time you get it out. But usually you're always best to have a direct air taken from the back of your vehicle, pushed to the front of your vehicle. So it just kind of cycles naturally, just like a house.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you take, and nobody's talked about this, and I mention all the time, nobody ever, what the hell is that crazy bugger talking about? Is you take the intake for the heater that you're heating the air from the inside, right? And I mentioned it to Chrome, and Chrome, when they built that box for his heater, it takes the air from the inside of the heated van, right? Because the way it's built, it sucks it. And when Andy cut it, he cut all the holes in it so that the air comes from the inside of the van, not the outside. So he's really reheating his air, right? And that's how you keep it warm. Like,
sucking all that cold air from
out of it and reheat it.
Yeah, like, sucking all that cold air underneath the bed and recycling it again.
So wouldn't we want to have a longer intake hose so that it's not taking right where the heat is coming out? Like if you kept it all inside, could I have it where at least the slightly cooler internal air?
You always do want a slightly cooler internal air.
Yeah, but even where you like put the hole in the wall, Paula, right where you put the hole in the wall, just bring that intake heater in and stick it back in where that heater is and tie it in there. You'll notice a huge difference. I tell you, when you're heating, because you got to remember that air coming into that box is 20 some degrees below zero, and it's got to fire and make heat and then transfer it to aluminum. Well, if that air was like 10 degrees or 15 degrees, it would make a huge difference, because it would take less fuel, because it's going to use less fuel, because the temperature sender is going to say, wait, we're up the temperature, cut back the fuel a bit. So if you take that intake air and just get it in somewhere close to the heater where it can grab some warmer air. It'll make a huge difference.
You know what? Because I have my fresh air outside, when my exhaust outside as well too. So my fresh air is off the other side. I'll definitely, because I'm going to be moving my heater, because I put it in the back driver's corner, and because I have to go over a pump and a hump and get it pushed out, I'm going to move it closer to the front. But I'll definitely more than poke another hole in my van.
But see,
it has enough holes as it is.
The exhaust, I agree 100%. The exhaust has to go outside, and it has to exit the vehicle. It has to. But the intake, that's the only thing I never ever got with the intake, was why they did that. And we got into this with SPAR back in the 80s, 78, 80, 79. I said, why do you do that? And why is because they have the combustion chamber there, and they're worried that if the wind's blowing the right way, it could blow the fumes back in. That's the only reason that the intake is on the outside. But if you do it in such a way that there's no wind blowing on it, then there's no way that a wind's going to blow on it. Then you don't have to worry about the back blast, right? So it makes a huge difference. Huge.
And I don't like. I think the whole idea is because the internal combustion engine works the same way, and people think about
Exactly.
the more colder air you push into that engine, the bigger explosion you have. And I don't think that works very well with the diesel heater. You're pulling that -20, -40 air through. You're not going to produce as much heat. It's going to take that much more fuel, and it's going to burn a lot more. Definitely, I will definitely give that a try the next time when I move my heater from the back to the front.
So we are down to 10 minutes, you guys. So I'm going to do some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
One of them, Sylvia Mayer is saying, are you guys saying get both the Webasto and the Wave? I think basically, what they're trying to say is you need multiple sources.
If you can afford the Webasto and a Wave heater, or
but
even
we're talking the cheap one now.
Oh, the Webasto / knockoff Chinese one. Yeah. A Wave heater or a Mr. Buddy as a backup.
See, that's the problem with it right now is that, and me and Aaron talked about this, is that everybody wants backups for the backups for the backups. And that's where you make the choice and you buy a good heater. You buy a Webasto, or you buy a Wave 8 or a Wave 3 or a Mr. Buddy heater. You know, something that works, or like an RV furnace, right? And if you buy a quality heater, you don't really need a backup. Like the only reason we're putting the wood stove in your
power failure or you run out of fuel, I think you do need at least one backup with another source.
A great example.
Not to do that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I tried not to, and I ended up stranded.
A great example. My parents run off of propane, and they also have a wood stove in their house. And I was just talking to my father. And even though that he has everything nicely insulated and covered, it's just because of the direction of the wind, the temperature, one of the valves froze, the propane, and the furnace couldn't run.
Yeah.
But that's fine. My parents don't have to worry. They just get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, fill that wood stove full of wood again, and go back to sleep. And my dad likes it about 95 Fahrenheit in the house all the time. So if you ain't sweating, you're not warm enough. So.
You know, when you get right down to it, the worst thing, when you really think about it, the worst thing to heat in the winter time is propane, because it freezes at 40 below. It quits running. You have to heat the tank up. But that's what we've been trained, right? See, natural gas, you don't have that problem because it's a gas. It comes out as a gas.
Heat up the tank.
Yeah. Well, up here in Alberta, you put a heat strap on the bottom of it to warm the tank up. But see, that's what they said about. I was talking about heating the trailer this winter off propane. They said, well, you got to get a pig because it won't run off 20 and 30 pound bottles. Well, it does run off 20 and 30 pound bottles, and I haven't had a problem yet. See, the biggest problem with propane is the regulator freezing. Because there's a little small orifice in there, and they'll ice up, right? But that's what we're trained. And exactly, I agree with you. You should have more than one or something. If you're in the winter, especially, you should have a backup, something like hot water heater or something.
Yeah.
You know, I agree.
So
if you have a Webasto, and a Wave, I don't think you'll ever have an issue. But anyway, go ahead.
We got 7 minutes left, and there was a couple questions about skirting your RV. Do you skirt your RV? And if so, what material should you use?
Well, if you look at skirting your RV, a lot of people will put the best one to use in that I found is you take leatherette, like leatherette or something like that, and you put a reflective in it and then leatherette on the outside and just hang it down. That one is really good. And that's the one that you put on with domes. If you watch some videos, you'll see but they're expensive. They're like $5,000 for that to get, like, for a fifth wheel, and they're like $3,200 for mine. And you just clip it on, but it does work. Really good. But the best thing I found was 2-inch insulation and garbage bags. Now, the reason for the garbage bags is when you put the insulation up against the trailer, it doesn't squeak because the insulation will squeak against the wall. So you put it in garbage bags, it doesn't squeak. And I find, because it doesn't matter what you put on there as long as it stops the wind.
Cool.
So what about just doing sheets of plywood and attaching polystyrofoam or something like that against the inside? Perfect. Yes.
Perfect. Because then you got the plywood, which is what, R3, and then you got the styrofoam that's
R12, depending which ones you find.
Yeah. And like all them skirts that you find on the trailers, most of them, they say they got an R value about 7 or 8, right? So that's all you really need. What it basically does is just stop the wind. That's the big thing, is stop the wind from blowing. That's what you want to stop.
Yeah, because as soon as you get that wind up underneath, it makes a huge difference. Like my tiny house, my frame is 7.5 inches, and my father and I, we doubled up the insulation with glass fiber insulation all the way through. So it's literally hypothetically R40 throughout the bottom.
Yeah.
And you'll even notice it because at the wheel wells, we don't have that insulated at the wheel wells. So
there's no insulation there at all.
You could see the frost pull up through the screws and sit on top of the heads of the screws.
Exactly. That's what difference. Like, I had a 35-foot trailer out at the racetrack in Edmonton, and I wanted insulation for underneath it, and I didn't want to buy a skirting. So what I did was this guy brought a whole bunch of 6-inch thick cutoffs from, they were insulating a pad or something for a house or for a shop, and they had all this left over because they set the concrete on insulation, right? And I just laid it under there, and this stuff is stacked like 24, 36 inches. It was toasty warm under there. So only
a great YouTube channel to go check out for more in-depth breakdown of some of the heaters is called UK Pepper's Guide. He really
Peppers,
did. UK Pepper's Guide.
Yeah,
he does
them all.
Yeah, and if you guys want to dig deeper into these Chinese heaters, you'd be more than happy with the information he provides.
Because when you talk to Chrome, he hasn't got any of the issues the Chinese people have at all with the Chinese heaters. With his Webasto, he doesn't have any. He just hits the thing and it goes.
His Webasto is gas as well too, not diesel.
Yeah, but everybody says, well, the Volkswagen had a gas Webasto in it back in the 60s. They did all the trials for it, Volkswagen. That Volkswagen heater they had in it, well, that was a Webasto or an S-Bar. That's who they made that.
Well, we definitely know that there's some extra precautions due to the extreme temperatures that we have in Canada, and I want to thank you guys so much. As soon as it warms up a little bit, I am going to change my intake to inside.
I just try it.
And that makes so much sense.
I'm going to too. I'll give it a try. I'll let you guys know as well too.
And thank you, Badge, and thank you, J-Rock, so much.
Thank you for having me.
I do hope you guys will come back on Saturday and we can expand some more on this topic.
J-Rock, don't underestimate yourself. That was a very good video, and that's what I want people to know. If you haven't watched J-Rock's video on the diesel heater, it's worth watching it. It is.
Thank you.
It's a very good video.
Discussion.
Very good.
So. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
good
guys.
night.
Good night. Good night.
Yeah. Bye.